We humans absolutely ruin every chance we have to be great, don't we? We build great nations capable of remarkable advances, and then we completely blow it all on bribery and corruption. But the good news is, it's not always bleak in this world of ours. There are countries where leaders are dedicated to doing the right thing and don't give up their morals at the first whiff of personal gain. In the video today, we're looking at the top countries in the world that believe in the greater good. And in case you're wondering, the United States came in here at number 18 in the least corrupt category, which is actually not that shabby. Well done, America. Number 10. Iceland. As we continue down this list, you'll notice a trend of places in the Great White North, which means that it's probably simply too cold in the upper northern hemisphere to be super corrupt. We guess. If there is a weakness in the country, it seems to exist somewhere in the political field, with charges of nepotism and other unethical relationships taking place. Overall, since the global financial crisis of 2008, Iceland's boat of morality has taken on a bit of water. Still, to occupy the number 10 place on this list, you're certainly doing better than most. Newish Icelandic Prime Minister Katrín Jakobsdóttir has noticed this slip in integrity and seems to be addressing all of these issues that have cropped up in the last decade. That's why she's bringing together the two major conservative parties in Iceland that have had hands in recent scandals, and is forming a coalition to restore faith in the political system and to hold those embroiled in scandals to account. Whether it works and raises Iceland up in the rankings remains to be seen, but it's definitely a bold new approach in Iceland that maybe other countries could take note of. Number 9. Australia. With its neighbour New Zealand, spoiler alert, ranking so high on this list, it's nice to see that Australia is following suit. The country has been falling in the last few years, but it's still got a pretty positive record of global and domestic activity to curb corruption. Media outlets, unions, and the political parties of Australia are viewed as the areas where the country needs the most work in stemming the tide of corruption. But that's based on polling the people of Australia and may not represent the actual facts. In truth, worldwide faith in those establishments has been on a downward trend in the last decade or two. In actuality, and especially compared to most other countries of the world, regulations are by and large transparent and legitimate, and there's an independent judiciary that is mostly just, and bribery in the public services is rare. If anyone is up to funny business, it's the police. One case in the state of Victoria involved officers participating in drug trafficking, and border officers have been accused of helping to move drugs from one country to another. Number 8. Germany. Germany has a very strong level of integrity across the board, generally speaking. Foreign bribery has been a major facet of corruption that the German government has taken aim at, ramping up their efforts to fight those kind of practices. Even the German president wasn't immune from efforts to fight corruption. In 2012, President Christian Wolff was accused of taking part in a shady home loan and was basically removed from office. The relationship between the government and importing car manufacturers in Germany is something that anti-corruption officials will need to watch very closely. The Volkswagen scandal of recent years has brought to light that more needs to be done in this area. Number 7. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom puts a great deal of importance on the high esteem and ethical standards of its public services. And indeed, they're putting their money where their mouth is, making it to number 7 on this list. Indeed, the tenure of Prime Minister Theresa May has boosted the country's ranking even more, especially with the adopting of a legitimate anti-corruption strategy. To that end, the National Crime Agency was founded in the UK in 2013 with a special interest in decreasing organised crime and its tentacles that travel everywhere from human trafficking to cybercrime. Anti-corruption task forces were absorbed into that agency, which drew ire from many who were probably doing corrupt things. The Brexit fiasco, which involved the UK leaving the European Union, probably doesn't bode well for the country remaining on this list. Because of leaving the coziness and warmth of the European Trade Union, the UK will probably be doing business with countries on the other end of the corruption spectrum. Still, one branch of government that is committed to fighting corruption is the extremely Englishly named Serious Fraud Office. This has been absolutely crushing it when it comes to exposing corrupt acts by businesses, by everyone from Guinness to the multi-billion-dollar Barclays bank scandal. Number 6. The Netherlands. Continuing the trend of Northern European countries that kind of just have their shit together, the Netherlands holds the number 6 spot due to the strong existing social structures like independent court systems, business codes of conduct, and an overall culture of trust. All sounds rather nice, doesn't it? Corruption tried to rear its ugly head in the police departments in the country, but the government got involved and shut down anything that was going wrong. Another case emerged involving Swedish telecom giant Telia and Netherlands government officials. Bribes were taken and accounting books were cooked. The Netherlands slapped the Rotterdam-based subsidiaries of the company with a fine to the tune of $274 million. In other words, they were not fooling around. Basically, the country has a system that keeps a close eye on the systems in the country, monitoring them very frequently for corruption, and when that corruption happens, they punish them brutally. Number 5. Canada. This shouldn't surprise anyone since Canada's always been that really cool neighbor north of the United States. There are very clear regulations for organizations wishing to do business in Canada, and the court systems, they're clean and efficient. Also, the police are among the most reliable in the entire world. It's the reason why Canada is the highest ranking country in all of the Americas, north and south. But corruption is once again trying to gain traction in Canada, and bribery is also still a problem. So, how to tackle this? Now you see, Canada's Access to Information Act has been woefully inept, and the government has started investigating further, seeking ways that transparency countrywide could be more achievable. Also in 2006, Canada launched the Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act, which give those looking to expose wrongdoing in the government a confidential process to tell their stories. Number 4. Singapore. Singapore might be one of those small countries that you never exactly know where in the world it's located. Here's a hint: it's near Malaysia, south of Vietnam. But it's making quite a name for itself, and it's kind of a model for curbing corruption, especially in an area of the world that is rather fraught with it. Singapore is small, with a population of just over 5 million people, and that could be why corruption cases are easy to uncover and to enforce, but that's a whole other story. A little talked about reason for fewer instances of corruption is the nature of Singapore itself. The fact that it carried over a lot of ideas when it was under colonial rule from Great Britain led to inherent ways of fighting corruption. There was a clear meritocracy in the promotion of civil servants, and corruption itself was an offense all the way back to 1871, so all these ideas of curbing corruption, they were baked into Singapore right from the start. It's also one thing to be corrupt in the government, but another to get away with it in the private sector. Singapore has addressed that as well, issuing swift and stern punishment in a high-profile shipping inspection case, an industry that is obviously important with Singapore's geographic location. Number 3. Finland. Scandinavia has a pretty sterling record when it comes to cleanliness, in a moral way. But not too far away, another country has elevated itself into that kind of rare company. A solid score of 85 shines a positive light upon the Finnish people. Not bad, considering that about 6 billion people worldwide live in a country that's deemed to be more corrupt than not corrupt. Finland's judicial system is of particular note here. There's hardly any cases of citizens making payments to judges, and businesses in the country have a huge rate of trust in their court systems. The judges themselves are very confident in their work, reporting very little pressure. Another reason for very sparse corruption is that the country itself has a genuine freeness when it comes to openness and respect for free media and journalism. Access to information is extremely important, and it's constitutionally guaranteed. Number 2. Denmark. Holding a top 4 spot in the least corrupt countries since 1995, Denmark is on a winning streak of overall morality that seems to be a distinctly Scandinavian trait. Bribes between public officials for services or benefits are virtually non-existent, which is almost abnormally wholesome. In a comprehensive study of corruption worldwide, countries were assessed and given a score of 0 to 100. The worldwide average was a rather shameful 43, indicating systemic corruption on almost every level. Denmark, however, is one of the good boys in the world's classroom. They have scored at 90 or higher for several years running. Achieving that takes a whole lot of diligence, which Denmark has taken on by ratifying all sorts of international anti-corruption initiatives. Some of them have gone so far as to deny officials visiting Denmark any gifts, extravagant meals, etc. Further, any foreign companies that engage in any kind of bribery are treated as if they were on Danish soil, so these guys really mean business. Number 1. New Zealand. A perennial leader in ethics, New Zealand prides itself on transparency in business and politics as well as in the judicial system. Perhaps the possibility of a 14-year jail sentence for bribery contributes to that. Public officials are also prohibited from accepting gifts. The police systems are also on the up and up for the most part. There are independent organizations in place to expose police corruption whenever it does occur. Starting a new business is also very easy in New Zealand and can be done in as little as half a day, thanks to a transparent regulatory system and the ease of foreign investing and transactions. There's also legislation directly aimed at organized crime and its footholds in money laundering, bribery, and drugs. The penalties there are very stiff, to say the least. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, give us a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Looking for something else? Well, why not check out my other channel called Biographics? You'll find a link to that in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching.